Hi,
Question
Sebastian.
for you. So at the moment in Orchard we use YAML for a bunch of config stuff, right?
Yes,
But
correct.
we don't use any kind of like real YAML parser.
Correct, for a reason. If you
Why?
ask me, I will tell you why.
Well, I'm asking you. You tell me why, because we do it in we parse YAML in like four
I
different
know.
ways.
I know. Because so we at first we were using a YAML parser that and which was open source, and then we changed for a custom handmade parser, very simple parser, for performance reasons, because it was a huge hit in the startup process, just parsing the YAML file using this parser. So now we are using one simple handmade parser.
But we use more than one parser.
Well, maybe in the critical path, performance critical path, we are using a handmade. I don't know which ones we are using. 4 of them, you mean? Okay. Depending on what we need, what information we need to grab. I know it was for performance reasons because it was significant in the startup process.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Didn't realize that.
you should look at that. Maybe the ones we are using are different. Maybe we don't want to use YAML anymore. I don't know. YAML is fine.
I'm using YAML.net or something like that, or
I don't
.NET
remember which one
YAML.
we used, and it was 5 years ago, so I'm sure there's a new version. And
Yeah.
but performance is important here because we are passing many files in terms of
No, no,
memory
totally.
and speed. So
Um,
profiling.
so that gets me onto kind of like if we were using one YAML parser in Orchard,
Mm-hmm.
could we use could we make it so that it was because with VNext and non-VNext stuff can reference VNext stuff if we put in the .NET stuff in the project.json file. So we might be able to reference across, and then both projects can use the same YAML parser. If that makes any sense.
Both
I'll talk to
projects.
you later about it.
Which, yeah. Okay. What else? Okay, so is Chris? This is Chris Payne.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. I don't know. So you asked me to add you to the demo slots.
Yep.
Don't show too much because we want to see more at the conference.
No, it's more of a kind of
Okay.
question, to be honest, at the end. I want to start a discussion.
So I have the status too. I'll set the first the demos after. Sipke, any demo?
Nope.
Time. Does anyone else have some demos? Oh, Gustavo, I asked you if you wanted to do a demo.
Yeah, no, I'd responded to your GitHub comment.
So you didn't
Yeah,
see.
I mean that's running on our QA environment, and right now I'm trying to get it to work with our POC because we had a POC implementation of it.
We'll see. So the ID was identity server integration. We'll see if we can have that.
Yeah, single sign-on with using a think texture identity server.
Yep, and maybe because Chris is online, he will listen to what you're about to say.
Okay.
Because there is an open pull request / issue from Bit Gaming, also about single sign-on. Well, not really single sign-on, but sort of. Okay, and if Daniel was here, Sipke is here, but he will be too shy to talk about it, I'm sure. If Daniel is not here, but I'm like, what?
Well, I can give you the highlights.
Yeah. So after 2, okay, I want to know what it is.
Okay.
I've seen that. What is it? Okay, status. Oh, and I can do a small one, 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes. First, Orchard, and actually I have some changes to push. Orchard. Let me pull everything. Lots of activity again last week from everyone. too much, maybe. So 7 days ago, I assume that's done. What time was it? Yeah, let's say. So I pulled some pull requests. So watch assets.json from Gustavo, which will also watch the assets.json files. What was this one? A simple typo. Yeah, Sipka, I assume, copy-pasted the custom forms module to create a dynamic forms module, and nobody realized that it was still called custom forms in the modules.txt. Interesting. So someone fixed it. Philips J. This is a fix for unit test because can you remind me her name, Sipke? Who made the change?
Yeah, that was Masa. She made
Masa, yes, so she ordered the layers in the screens, but by doing that, the anonymous layer was selected by default. So now I'm overriding, and the default layer is selected by default, even if the order of the layers have changed. So it fixed some unit tests. Distributed locking has been merged. Good. Good job, Sipke. Update default layout setting. This one was reported by Matthew about a migration issue for us. We talked about it last week during the triage, I think, or maybe during the meeting. Can't remember. So the idea now is that if we see that the previous value hasn't been changed, and I'm using a hash for that, MD5 hash, we are updating the default layout. So it works. This one is a change I pulled. So because nobody complained about it, I pulled it into dev, which is adding the datetime relative shapes for everything else than just days, minutes, and hours. It's also weeks, months, and years. So if something happened a month ago or years ago, it will say 3 years ago, and not on Monday 11/20/11, because yeah, who cares? This is a fix on content field picker, and I don't remember what was the issue, but it was it made sense, and it's fixing it. There was another ref, yeah. Compilation issues on the CI. The CI was broken, so I fixed it. Tokens. The new tokens features have been merged, and I think it's only in dev. And the new tokens feature, I mean, what is that? I don't remember exactly yet. Some more chaining, so we can use the text tokens on more things. This is just adding chaining. So when you do dot line encode, you can also do dot HTML encode and so on. And content token, same thing here. JavaScript encode token. Yes, someone asked for it. We have HTML encode, URL encode. I added JavaScript encode. So if you're generating something which is in JavaScript, you can encode it from a token. Lazy cache major resolution. Oh, this one is huge. Well, huge. It's a big change. Daniel is not here, still not here, because we talked about it like weeks ago. Oh, I heard some noise. Was it him? Nope. So the idea is that if you remember during a meeting we talked about the concurrent dictionaries and the fact that the cache is based on that and is not thread safe, in the way that if you have some code inside the cached region, like this one, you see when you do cache manager.get and you have the context, if you have lots of threads accessing this code at the same time for the first time, all of them will run that. Only one of them will be saved in cache, but all of them will run the initialization method. And it could cause some issues. It was causing some issues at first on the Redis connection initialization, and then we realized it could cause some more issues everywhere we were using the get. And after some talks to Louis, who architected the cache engine, it is supposed to behave like this. This is expected. So what we decided with Daniel was to add an extension method. So I did that. Like this in the same file as the interface. So it's just an extension method on the interface, and you do the same thing. You still do a cache manager.get, but you can optionally pass a boolean lazy, which by default will be false if you don't pass anything. So if you say it has to be a lazy get, it means that the initializer that you pass as the func here will be wrapped inside a lazy initialization, which means only one of the lambdas will be executed. So it's like making it somehow thread safe. And I changed all the usages where it needed to be thread safe, like for instance in the extension manager harvesters, so that if you have two threads trying to harvest the same thing, only one will be executed. So you see, it's just adding true where you think that the initialization should not be run twice or more. Sometimes it's fine, sometimes it's not. So I changed it everywhere and pushed it into 19x. Many cases, like so for instance, every time there is SQL access, you should have it this way, because you don't want to duplicate all the SQL accesses on startup, for instance. Same thing on this one. I don't know how many of you have ever seen two site content items on your database. I've seen that quite a lot, and this is probably because of this code, because two threads will initialize the setup and create a site object. Yep. Okay. So we'll see how it goes. I also added 2 unit tests to ensure that it works as expected, and that's good. Token manager tests, fix the unit test, fix some other test. What was it? Recipe manager tests. I don't know if it's related to Sipka's code with the recipes. I don't remember. That's okay. Merge one index in dev branch. Then this is another exception. We don't care. Improving protected zones in settings UI. Yes, so I changed the way we edit the settings for 2 fields, which are the base URL. So the base URL now is read-only if you're not site owner. You can still see it if it makes sense, if you need to see it. And I also changed the driver here, the driver to protect max page count, because it was protected in the UI but not in the code. So now it's protected. It's totally non-critical issue. Just the site owner can change the max page count, which means how many pages can be displayed at max on the screen. It's very important if you have millions of content items. You don't want people to be able to go to the last element, because it will be very slow in SQL. If there are some comments online I need to see, please tell me. Nope. Documentation on set version. So I just added some summary because actually there is a constraint on the set version of the resource, which is it has to be a semver format, major dot minor, and optionally a build and revision version. Okay, if you don't do a 1.2 or 1.0, there will be a parse error, because later on this code path there is a version.parse. So I just added the summary so that when you type the code, it's obvious what you have to type. fixing a unit test.
By the way, why don't we change the interface here to accept a version object?
I don't
and
disagree,
obsolete this?
but today it's using a string, and we could parse at this level, but there was no interest on parsing it at this level. It's fine. I don't see the advantage, and it will be breaking on 19x. So it's parsed after that, and only if the resource is used. So I think it's better. You could break potentially if you parse right now on the declaration. If you're using a module which is declaring it incorrectly, it will break your website, even though it was not breaking before, even if you don't use the resource itself. So I'd rather use it this way. And the reason why it's a new thing is that the semver parsing has been introduced, I think, a year ago. So that's why it's new, and it's later in the pipeline. Supporting custom display type for search results. Yeah, tell me if I did wrong, but someone on Coplex was asking to be able to customize the search results. It was always looking for summary, which was hard-coded in the controller. I thought it was not really nice, so I just added a side setting on the search. So there is search setting. So by default it will be using summary for search results, but you can redefine which display type to use when we display search settings. Nobody's complaining about it? Kind of useful if you want a different view of your search results than the standard view, which is summary. Order of projects change in CS Proj. So Baruch, sorry, I don't remember exactly the pronunciation. Baruch changed that, expecting it to fix the compilation issues we had. So just changing the order of the module in the project. And this is the pull request. This is Sipke working on the new initializing status. This is a small change from Ryan, I think, who's here today. Just using the isUpper. Well, actually, this one is more complete. The isUpper method instead of checking for A to Z. Okay, I looked into the implementation. It's checking for A to Z, but it's also checking for other languages uppercase, which is fine.
Speaking of uppercase, it should be uppercase char.
I don't get the comment. What do you mean?
I mean, he's using.
Oh, yeah, you're very picky about that. Yes, sorry, I didn't see that. Yeah, so the convention is to use an uppercase C when you use static methods on types. Yes, sorry. You can create a pull request if you want, Daniel. I will.
No, I'm demoted now. Okay, I got it.
Well, you can push it directly. I trust you.
Thank you.
I missed this one. This is from Jeff about adding the required attribute on the client side when required is checked on the numeric field. Distributed looking was merged. Same thing, the same branch. Oh, sorry, initializing branch. I think this is all the commits from the same pull request. Okay. This is about taxonomy, the default value. Apparently some links were not working because of that missing. Comment tokens available to anti-spam module. So apparently, wrong call when there is spam, you don't publish, you unpublish. And when you want to report ham, you report ham and you don't report spam. Sorry, but someone found it and fixed it. Michael Yates. And it's in 19x. This one, simplified shell content creation. This is still for the initializing branch, fixing the spec flow test, the auto route spec flow test. This is about the new home / alias management. Spec flow test, pull requests. We talked about it. Spec flow test. Sipke fixed all the spec flow tests. Thank you, Sipke, because like 79 out of 84 were not passing for the same reason, I assume. And he fixed them all. What is that? Oh, recipe branch. Fixed the typo. So I assume those are pull requests that Sipke merged, because or maybe Nick or Sipke, both of them, I didn't see them coming. So this is a typo. No. Who pulled that? Okay, it's just refactoring. Okay, good. Well, it's just removing a dependency. Okay, good. I'm afraid. I know there is a pull request going on, changing some counting stuff, and you see, because I saw term count processor, don't take it. It's too risky. I need more time to look at the issue and the actual fix. So be careful. This one is fine. Updated alias map. Okay. Trust you.
I can explain a bit.
You
It's
can.
about ensuring that
Shorted pass. Oh, I see. It was ordering by the name and not the length. Okay.
yeah, exactly. Nick found this.
Good. Import export what is it? On which cache settings part handler? Okay. Output cache setting, import export again. What is it? Select. Oh, you are creating a new element for each. Okay, good. Okay, importing cache settings in dev. Okay. Display text encoded twice. I saw that, and I saw also that Sipke merged it. So yeah, as a reminder, be careful when you do a toString on some translation. This will be encoded. So if you do the toString, then if you do a at this thing, it will be encoded again. So use the IHTML string variation. This is the one, and a refactor on the. It's a branch. I saw the pull request and I commented on the pull request, refactoring the machine name to calling it application environment interface. Well, what is it?
Yeah, and it's not just that. I also added a property called script timeout. There's an issue where the script timeout should be configurable, and I posed some questions.
The concern is, should it be one script timeout for everything, or each component?
Yeah.
I don't know. If some of them make sense together, maybe, but some others might have their own timeout. So this one so the question, should it be the same for setup and for recipe execution? I'm not sure, but they're related somehow. One should be bigger than the other. I'm not sure we want a single one. And this one I commented that I don't see why we will abstract the machine name, because we need to fix it. Okay, today it's called get machine name, which is wrong because we add the process into it, and we need the process into it, because if you run two Orchard services on the same machine, you want the process to be there. For the reasons we need this identifier, because I don't think we actually need to abstract the machine name. If you want the machine name, you just do environment.machine name and you have the machine name. what we need is an abstraction of the service which executes Orchard, because there can be multiple one on the same.
We may need an abstraction of the machine name as well.
For Azure?
Because for Azure. Because if you're deploying to cloud services, then the machine name is not repeatable. So you want something that's the same on every deploy, then you'd want something else, like the role instance name, for example.
So maybe we need the two then.
Yeah. But what I don't get about the script timeout,
wait. Why do we need the machine name, on Azure still? Because the machine name itself, we don't care. We need, again, so you see the difference?
Well, no, because, we can't really know. If somebody wants a repeatable machine name on Azure, then we would need to be able to override it, because if you just read from system.environment, then you get something that's randomly assigned to the machine when it's spun up.
The question is, where do we use machine name in this context where we need...
That I don't know.
Because maybe it's just, again, we just need a discriminator for the runner of Orchard.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the use case, but I don't think we can rule out that somebody needs it. And if we've had it before, then we should retain the same
but
service.
just at the same time we are breaking it here.
Yeah, but can I just ask, what does the script timeout have to do with the environment in which you're executing? Why is it tied to the environment?
You're asking Sipke?
Well, yeah, whoever
the
thought
one
of
who
this.
wrote this, I wrote this. This is a suggestion. I need a place to read this information from. Because either we configure this per component or per class using the out-of-act configuration files, or if it's the same value and we want it a common value, then we need a class that provides this value, and it could be this class, or maybe it would be a different class. Just a suggestion, and if there's more, if you think it doesn't make sense, we can talk about that.
Yeah, personally, I think it makes more sense to configure it in host components.config, because it's probably a per component thing rather than per environment.
Yeah, Sebastian just suggested that you may want to use a different value for
even if it's the same value by default.
Import.
Even if it's the same value by default, yeah.
But you can at least configure it differently.
But the default value, I don't believe, should be on this level either. If there is a default, it should be the same regardless of environment.
Yeah, but so if we remove it from there, it solves all the questions. We just have the script timeout in every component, and it's not called environment whatever.
Mm-hmm.
One issue though, setting a property value from the host components.config file on some component, that works, but setting that on a controller, for example setup controller, for some reason doesn't work. But is it supposed to work, do you know? Because maybe it's just a bug.
Maybe it's how the setup controller is registered is different.
I'll look into that then.
And maybe you can define it, I don't know. Okay, let's see. Maybe it just needs to be... Well, I know. If you look at the code which is reading the host component, it's in a starter class. And the setup has another starter class. So maybe reuse the same code, refactor, so that we can reuse the configuration loading and at the autofact level also on the setup starter class. Just to see.
And there's also a sites.config which is loaded later, I think. And that is...
I don't remember the difference. I used to know. I should have written it somewhere. But yeah, there's a scope difference.
Yeah, well, we should be able to find out based on the info from the context.
Yeah, I looked at the code and I understood. Good. So this was the last commit. Status done. Just while we are doing the status triage frequency discussion, I want to talk maybe 1 minute or 10, we'll see, about how many times a week we do triage, formal triage or informal triage. Just I haven't decided anything. I just want to hear what you have to say. There are so many things which happen on the repository those past months. Even myself, I have hard time following what's happening, all the discussions, all the issues, all the pull requests, and the issue is the way we work in a very, how do you say that, not local. We are all distributed manner. It makes like, okay, I will answer a question tonight for me, and you will sleep, so you will just answer 6 hours after, and maybe you will get my answer the day after. So it's very, and same thing for everyone. So it's like it's very hard to be very efficient on fixing an issue, on agreeing on the solution of a question, and on merging pull request. So I'm fine so far, but I'm afraid that some of you could get frustrated by the delay it takes, or the time it takes to have something merged, answered, followed up, things like that. So one solution will be to have more frequent triage meetings, even if they are smaller. At the same time, I know it's hard to, again, organize it worldwide because we have different time zones. So I'm just issuing the discussion. If someone has some opinion or wants to say, oh, that's fine, 1 hour every week is fine, or we don't need more reactivity to close pull requests or answer questions.
We could also have more meetings, but I think we should rather make the current meetings more efficient. Particularly what I also brought up in the beginning, I think that we could have well, somebody who basically looks through the patches in advance and then just quickly explains them. So we don't have to take time on understanding the pull requests, at least, but we have to quickly go to the point and discuss what's there to discuss, but we don't have to dig into the code right there.
Okay. Or just skip when we have to dig into the code.
What did you say?
Skip the pull request instead of trying to do it.
Yeah, probably that. Because I think most of the time we spend on actually looking at the code and understanding and discussing that. But we shouldn't really discuss all the pull requests in depth together. We should do that offline in form of comments, but we should rather discuss in person what really matters.
Okay. At the same time, be like we do in Scrums. If someone diverges and you think, no, we have spent too much time on that, let's talk about it offline, or let's take some time offline and stop the discussion. You can also do it if you think.
Yeah,
you know, if I talk too much about something, just let me know, and stop, we'll talk about it later. I'm fine.
But the issue is that we spend too much time on every pull request, I think.
Okay, yeah, but that's, yeah. At the same time, I think we don't spend enough time on some pull request, and
it's new for every attendees, and that's the case most of the time. Then we always spend more time.
So how do you propose we solve that?
Spend more time offline.
Yeah, that's a good summary. There would be, well, probably not a single patch master, but multiple ones who take care about a specific pull request, look into the code, do all the styling remarks and the basic stuff, and bring their pull requests, the pull request mentored by them, up on the meeting and explain them very quickly so we can get to the point if needed. So we don't have to go through every pull request.
We already do that. Look, Nick, Sipke are merging pull requests and they don't even ask anyone or myself if I agree on that. It's just sometimes, well, and myself too, I accept pull request, not waiting for a triage because there is no discussion. It's fine, the code is good. There is no point into talking about it. I talk about pull request in triage when I'm not sure and I don't understand what it means, and so I don't know. But I agree. Sometimes maybe some pull requests we should have spent less time talking about it because this is not something that we need the triage for. I could have looked at the code and understood the code out of the triage. Okay, so focusing the triage meetings for constructive talks. Okay, so no more frequent triage, and same thing for the discussion. Everyone is happy with the feedback from everyone. The time to resolution of the issues and answers to the questions. I know there are some discussions, for instance, that have been going on for weeks, so it's not very efficient. Okay, good. So if everyone is happy with what's happening, I will close the discussion. Demos and then harvest. Demos. Let's start with the most accomplished one, Glimpse. Chris, let me...
Accomplished. You've put us under pressure.
Yeah,
now.
well, the other one, Gustavo is looking for how to show it, and iOS, we don't know anything about it, so we'll see.
Daniel's here. He's
I
happy
know.
to,
Yeah. But yes. So Daniel, you missed the conversation. Sipke would have explained what it is if we didn't join. You can leave. That's fine. We have Sipke.
No. I asked specifically Daniel to join so he can explain
Oh.
it.
Yeah.
To share.
Yeah.
He didn't
I'm here.
intend to join.
I've been summoned.
Well, if you are time constrained, Daniel, and you want to do it now,
No, it's fine. I'll
Okay,
just
good.
zone out.
Chris, your presenter, feel free to share.
Yeah, I'm just sharing the screen. Okay, so can people see my screen? Yes.
So, no, wait. Today it's me.
Not yet.
I am recording, so I need to, and that's good. Go.
Okay, so I don't want to go into too much detail of all the features because I'll spoil my talk in 3 weeks' time. This was more to start a discussion about some points that have been raised and how we can take them forward. For those of you who don't know, I'm writing a Glimpse plugin for Orchard. This is pretty much how it looks. You can see various bits and bobs about the execution of your page. I just need to get a kind of consensus on a few last niggling things so I can get this in a state that's ready for pull request. So the first one's quite minor. It's that Glimpse provides the opportunity to put a little help icon on your screen for each tab, and that goes off to an external URL to provide a bit of description about what the tab does and what the data is shown. Do we have anything in place currently where I can edit?
I have an opinion for that. This is not the first time I've seen this question, or I've seen something like this, and I will talk to Daniel for that. I prefer to see everything in the documentation repository and site. So if you need to link somewhere, it's the documentation repository, which will enforce also you as the author to document the plugin. And if, well,
Okay.
I mean, this module will be in core. I think everyone will agree of that about that. We already agreed about that. So the documentation should be in the core documentation too. And the core documentation is also on GitHub, so anyone can help or provide feedback and typos and things like that. And the side note is for the layout module, Daniel, the keyboard shortcut, they appear in a pop-up. And I was like, why isn't it on the documentation too? Like a link to the documentation. I'm fine with that. People click and it goes on the website with the documentation page for that. And it's easier to change it. And also to format what we want. Because the big pop-up, I'm like, how did you do? Did you do a T localize and people can localize it? And I don't know.
So one concern, I thought that was going to be the answer, and I've got a concern with that, and that's if we put that in the wiki, anyone can just change the structure of the wiki.
It's not a wiki. It's a GitHub.
Sorry, or the Git. Yeah. But that means basically we're going to end up hard-coding URLs to what's effectively a blob object in GitHub. So I don't know if we want to kind of have some sort of sticky URL for this that we link to and then that forwards on.
I see. So let's say that we change the URL of well, it's not actually GitHub. It's the website, documentation website, which is docs.orchardproject.net.
Yeah.
This should be consistent. At the same time, I understand that if we change where we place documentation, we don't want to change the code.
Yeah.
People with the old code will point to somewhere else. And you don't want to put links to forwarders. Maybe that's the solution, but that's harder to maintain.
It's just something to think about. The other thing is that if I start adding the documentation in before this pull request is merged, is that acceptable? Because I'll be documenting features that aren't.
That's fine.
Aren't there yet.
You can get the URL is based on the name of the page of the file. So it's one level and the file names. So you can even have a branch on documentation for 1.10 branch on documentation, and you know which file.
Okay, yeah.
And then when you push the branch, we push the documentation.
Okay, cool.
And you know that's not the worst issue that we have with documentation. It's better to have documentation and not organized, or too early documentation than no documentation. Today we have no documentation, so I'm like.
Okay, so I can sort that out. That's not a problem.
Other opinions? Sorry, I just talked and nobody else said anything. So everyone agrees. So beautiful.
Silence. Okay, so that was the easy one. The next one, I don't think everyone's going to agree on. So in the Glimpse issue thread, we've been talking a lot about decorators, and basically the lack of support for decorators out of the box in Orchard, and should we add this in? So for a lot of the Glimpse stuff, I've actually followed the decorator pattern to do this. So I've done that for several reasons. The main one of which means that the Glimpse implementation, or the Glimpse instrumented implementations, they don't actually care about what they're instrumenting, they'll just instrument it. So an example of that is this Glimpse content manager decorator that I've written. So that injects in an iContent manager, and it doesn't care what the implementation of this iContent manager is. So if somebody has created a custom implementation of iContent manager, it will still decorate that. So without the decorator pattern, the way you'd have to do this is you'd probably have to inherit from the default content manager and then suppress it. Obviously, that means that if someone had a custom implementation of iContent manager, we wouldn't be decorating that.
That, and we need to make all our implementation virtual.
Yeah.
Which is not the case today.
So the other nice thing about the decorator pattern is it allows you to stack your decorators on top of each other. So
I didn't follow this discussion. What are the cons of the decorator pattern, and that we will support it in Orchard?
I was trying to find the PR, Chris, where we had some discussions about this, but I can't find it. Is it closed now, or did?
It wasn't a PR. It's the issue for this for the
Glimpse.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So if you just take this as an example, this Glimpse Content Manager decorator, so this actually provides the instrumentation for content manager.get.
I kind of like the decorator pattern in this case, so I'd like to see what were the arguments against that, because it's optional and it will solve some issues, and it also enables some nice features.
I think the concern was the fact that I've changed the way that Orchard registers iDependencies, so it's quite a...
But is it a change that is breaking, or is it just...
No, it's not a breaking change.
So
no.
Okay.
So basically what I've done is I've created this Orchard decorator attribute. So if you ever create a implementation where you have to inject in something to be decorated, so this is iContent Manager, and it takes iContent Manager.
So you
Previously,
detect the dependency and you don't inject yourself, you inject the other one, which,
yeah, so what this is going to do under the hood is it will register your default implementation of iContent Manager, and then it will wrap it up in this Glimpse Content Manager decorator.
Will it be more expressive to actually pass the type that you want to decorate inside the Orchard Decorator attribute, so that there is no conflict with the other services?
I did consider that, and the reason why you don't want to do that is because what happens if you want to stack decorators? So, for example, I've got this this decorator here, which handles content item.get. I've also got another decorator for iContent Manager that handles build display.
Well, I'm not seeing the type. I'm seeing the interface type. So you just say,
implementation.
you just say, I just want to decorate iFu. Even better, can it be an interface? Like, I implement iDecorator of iContent Manager. So you implement iContent.
Yeah, I could have done that. So the reason I've chosen to do an attribute for a reason, and this is a bone of contention, but I am of the opinion that the module developers should be able to specify the priority of their decorators. So, for example, you probably want to have your Glimpse stuff the furthest away from your implementation as possible. So if someone creates a cached content manager or a logged content manager, you want to wrap your Glimpse stuff up in all of that. Or you might want it a different way around. So out of the box, the way that Orchard orders your registrations is based on feature dependency. But I think that's a bit restrictive because nothing is going to be dependent on this Glimpse stuff, which would mean that Glimpse would end up quite near the bottom of the stack, and I'm not quite necessarily sure that's what you want.
Decorators are not just about Glimpse.
Oh yeah, I know. But my point is.
So you have an order property on the Decorator attribute too?
Yes. So you can just use Orchard Decorator as it is, or you can pass an optional string, which is a flat.
Good.
A flat comparison.
Position, yeah. Good.
Yeah, flat position. Yeah. So you can change. You can say, I want this to be the last. I want this to be before 7.
I personally like everything you did here. I will just add the interface in the attribute, so you are explicit about which interface you are decorating. So that, for instance, you see if you have an iContent Manager and iGlimpse service, you don't decorate also iGlimpse service if there is another one. You just say, no, I don't want to decorate it. I don't know. But if you implement interface at the same time, okay.
Do you need? I'm not sure you need to do that because it's not a decorator unless it also implements iGlimpse service.
That's okay. That's fine. That answers that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I personally am fine with that, if not more than fine. Just want to hear people against it. For me, it's just another feature. It doesn't break anything. Just extend it, and you can do. It opens possibilities for other kinds of modules, like caching iContent Manager with preemptive caching, and this is a great word. Things like that.
Yeah. So just to give a bit of context, our solution has, believe it or not, 4 implementations of iContent Manager, and they all just inherit from each other, which means that we can't turn one of them off without turning the rest of them off. So this kind of gives you the flexibility to individually disable your decorators. So for example, this Glimpse widget content manager decorator sits in a different feature to the Glimpse content manager decorator. And that means that if you want to just decorate for content manager get, but not for your widgets, you can do that. If you want to do vice versa, you can do that. If you want to do both, you can also do that. It gives the site owner the flexibility to choose basically what's being decorated. And yeah, like you say, this is not Glimpse specific. This is pretty global. You could write a logging. If you had possibly, I don't know, iCache service, but you wanted to log all your misses, you could create a decorator that would log your misses.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Possibilities are endless.
In a different world, we could also imagine that every call every calls are somehow abstracted also, and you can intercept. Oh, I want to intercept all the iContentManager.get content type definition calls, and I will do it before and after, and it's like AOP, but dynamic. I commented on that to Nick. Nick is not convinced about the necessity of that. I will talk to Luis, who architected that, everything, just maybe because he thought about it, and maybe he has opinions on that, and maybe he has good concerns. So
okay. The only concern is that if you register decorators and you try to inject in an IEnumerable of your interface, you'll end up with multiple implementations. So if you try and decorate something like a content handler, you're going to end up calling both the decorator and the original implementation when you inject in IEnumerable.
Is it an issue with your current implementation or something that?
No, that's just how that would work with any implementation of decorators. That's just how decorators work. You're basically registering two implementations, so if you inject in an IEnumerable, you're going to get two injected in.
Why wouldn't we have just the wrappers around each of them? Like I have two handlers. Well, they are both wrapped, and I just have two handlers. You see what I mean? Or maybe I didn't understand your...
Yes. Okay, so let's say we, for some reason, injected in an IEnumerable of iContentManager. Now, in order for AutoFact to resolve the decorated service, the decorated service also has to be registered as a dependency. So if you inject in an IEnumerable, you're going to get Glimpse Widget Content Manager Decorator and the default Content Manager, because the default Content Manager has to be registered in order for AutoFact to inject it into here.
Yeah, I think it can be solved.
Okay.
I think it should be, and it can be. Yeah.
If it can be, that would be brilliant.
Well,
because
just if you do it as a pull request, please add a unit test with explaining the behavior and what is returned, and we'll see how we can.
Yeah, sure.
I think maybe you ought to be able to add something in the in the AutoFact module to make sure that these services are resolved, even though they're not dependencies. Like resolve them some other way.
What do you mean?
I mean, like telling AutoFact how to find them in an alternate way, rather than just having them be iDependency.
There would be iDependency because they have to implement the interface of the decorate.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. So that interface implements iDependency.
Yeah,
so
iContentManager is iDependency, so yeah.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And if you do the other trick I talked about, like iDecorator of iContentManager. Then we could have a specific module for that and with specific behavior for that, and it will not conflict with the other one. And you could still have you could still have the attribute if it's needed or something.
Yeah.
Optionally.
You
like
could
if you need,
specify the decorator
just for the order.
In order to for priority. Yeah.
One thing I'm noticing here in this particular example, Chris, iContentManager is a rather large interface, and it looks like the majority of your decorator is only delegating to the decorated service. So I was thinking about the idea of having an abstract base class for a decorator that you could just inherit from and override only the members that you want to decorate. Mm-hmm. But I can't solve the issue of who should declare such an abstract base class.
This is why I was mentioning if only there was a way to just intercept anything from an interface. Like is the case for the event bus, for instance. For the event bus, you can even not pass all the parameters of the interface you're implementing. So the idea would be, hey, I'm decorator of iContentManager for just this method. So it's like we could create a dynamic proxy based on that, which will just forward all the other methods because they are not implemented in the class.
Mm.
So it's not, you will not implement iContentManager, you will implement iDecorator of iContentManager, you will match by the name of the method, and the dynamic proxy will be the actual decorator, and that will solve it. And this is doable.
And so so the dynamic proxy would be using reflection basically to.
Yes, just to construct it, but once at startup, done. Like we do for event bus, exactly the same thing.
It's a really good example actually in the event notification stuff on ASP.NET. So I've just put the repo in.
Okay, so you see, and I'm sure this is not by chance that the event bus on Orchard is working like that, and that the event bus in ASP.NET 5 is almost like that too.
All right, I can take a look at that.
Another question, Chris. Did you take a look at the Decorator support that's in Autofac now since 2.4?
I saw your comment. I'm not too sure I was following what you were saying, because I think that is the way I'm doing it.
I didn't say much. I just said Autofac has built-in support for decorators now, and I just sent you I provided a link.
Yeah. Let's just find you just to remind myself how I do this.
Because if you're doing it the exact same way, then my concern is, aren't we duplicating what's already in Autofac to begin with?
I'm sure there's a way in the module that you must have done to use Autofac actually to do that.
Yeah, so this is where the decorators are actually registered. I think this is the way that Autofac recommend that you do it. So I'm basically saying register my decorator, and then what I'm saying is that the decorator will take a parameter of type iContentManager, say, and it will be resolved to a previously registered implementation that's named.
Mm-hmm. Well, so there's a method on the container builder that's called register decorator. I've pasted a link into the chat window. If you want to pull it up, go ahead.
Yeah, I did look at that, and I think there was a reason why I couldn't use it.
Okay, well, if you considered it, then I'm happy.
And
Just
also,
wanted to make sure.
You need to talk to the Glimpse guys because they're working on the next version.
Yeah, the next version is .NET V Next.
Only for now.
Okay. That might be where they haven't accepted any pull requests for 3 months.
I don't know. Maybe because they got hired by Microsoft and they got lazy.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
I know what it is. This is a Microsoft effect. You're wow, let's get lazy.
They're 9 to 5 people now.
No. They are less than before, I'm telling you. That's always how it works. Good. So, very interesting discussion. We'll take it offline. I will also look at how we can do that, but I think it will be a great way to extend Orchard to have decorators. It will simplify lots of scenarios. I will take back the screen. I'm not sure we have answered your questions, but just with more questions.
I'm happy enough. I'm always happy.
So, Gustavo, next week, a little demo about what you are doing with Identity Service?
Yeah, that's totally fine. I got it working on my local, so...
It's 1 p.m., I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know.
And I just want to hear a word about EOS, what it is. Even if there is a demo, no code, just explain the idea of...
Okay, so iOS is the...
iOS, is it iOS? Like, no, but what does it mean?
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with iOS. iOS is just a word we came up with. I believe it's the Portuguese word for layout. I think that's why we chose it. And basically, it's something that was born out of the work that I did on the client-side layout editor for Orchard.layouts. When I was building that thing, I realized there should be a way to generalize and abstract out the client-side editor piece of the layout editor and make it much more robust and with a much cleaner architecture, so that you could potentially reuse it somewhere other than Orchard. And we have a bunch of ideas that we wanted to do in the layout editor of Orchard, but that we didn't have time to do because we had to ship it at some point. Yeah, bunch of ideas for how to make that thing a lot better, a lot more portable, and reusable.
Okay.
So it would still be it would be written all in TypeScript and still using Angular. It would be a lot more flexible and a much simpler container model too, where, well, I shouldn't go into too much detail. It's kind of technical, but I am planning to put up I've written down a fair bit of documentation on the plan for it and the proposed architecture, what it's supposed to do. I'm going to put that up on the iOS repo in the README file, so that people can take a look at it and
how can it
there's any feedback.
impact Orchard in the current major version or in the next major version, or not at all?
I would think next major version, if at all. One good thing to do, once we've built it, it would be good to swap out the client editor piece that's currently in Orchard.layouts and use the iOS one instead, because it'll be way, way better.
And will it have more impact than just a layout editor?
No, I don't think so.
Just a layout editor. Okay.
Mhm.
Good. You like it. You found a new passion, layout editing.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, any questions? Harvest, I updated the website and... Oh yes, this is kind of important still. Harvest. Go away, where is... I don't know if you see the bar, I can see, but... so Orchard, harvest.com. Steady progression. So new things. Student ticket. Free, limited to a number of people. Not that much, but just to open it for students, local students. No t-shirt, no dinner. Full registration, t-shirt, snacks, and community dinner like before. What is not like before is that now the official price is 90 and no more 120. It's still 90 like the early registration. I didn't increase the price. Or just for one day, when I saw it switched and went back to $90 because the budget allows that. So if it can drive more people, that's good. That's it. So if you haven't registered, it's still cheap. Questions?
How many attendees do we have now registered?
For now, 47, and it's a steady line, so that's good. Usually we hit a plateau, but or sometimes the opposite, like it starts slowly and it increases. So far it's 47.
What's the typical turnout for previous years? How many did we have last year, for example?
Oh, the big difference. Well, last year was different because last year it was lots of in and outs. People would just come for a day or an afternoon because of Microsoft proximity. In Amsterdam and in Santa Monica, the big difference was locals. We had lots of people from the regions of Los Angeles in Santa Monica, and we had lots of people from Netherlands in Amsterdam, local, like let's say 25% or 30% every time was from local communities. In Alicante, it's different. We have very few from Spain. So that's the issue. I'm working with Sergio on making it better for them to join. Apparently the language is blocking them. They don't speak English. And also the price for them is too expensive. They will expect it to be free and free food. So that's different, I don't know, culture. So I'm working with Sergio, and he's working also a lot to promote.
So how many attendees did we have in Amsterdam?
We had 75 in Amsterdam.
Okay.
We are close from that. With some communication, we still have 3 weeks. I'm sure we can have it.
Mm-hmm.
Questions?
I have a question.
Mhm.
Is there any templates for slides, etc.?
Nothing to do with the meeting, but yes, I will send a PowerPoint master. But you can work on a non-templated one, and it will map very easily. And it's optional. It will be optional. So I will send it to everyone. I have the one from last year. I just update the logos, and then Zoltan will give me the logos, the new ones, and that will be fine.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you on Thursday or next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
See you later, guys.
Bye, everyone.
See you later. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.